All right. Good morning, everyone. Happy Monday. Welcome back. Thank you for joining another week of Maximize Monday. And I'm doing a kind of a series here where I'm getting some peers in the recruitment industry to join me to just kind of talk about how they got into the chaotic world that is recruiting, and what they've enjoyed about it, what keeps them in it, and what are some of the things they try to do to create a positive candidate experience. So I have Dragana with me today. Thank you so much for jumping on here with me and joining the call to discuss what got you into it.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. So we'll start off with that story because recruiting is one of those professions where it's not like people are in, middle, high school, elementary school, and like, I want to grow up to be a recruiter. It's just kind of something that you fall into along the way, in most instances. So what was that path like for you? What got you into it, and what keeps you in it now that you've been in recruiting for as long as you have?
Yes, I love this question because I have the best story and I feel like the most unprofessional story. But I was in college, I was 20. I was going to school for a very kind of general major in business. I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. And I was actually going to a local tanning salon in my town, and next door to it was this staffing company. And, this was 15 years ago. That wasn't huge yet. Recruiters weren't huge yet. And my parents kept telling me, you need to get a job. You need to get a job. And they had a now hiring sign. And I walked in and they said, would you want to be a receptionist? So I said, sure, I'll do it part time. And within 2 weeks, they were like, hey, we really want you to try to be a recruiter. You have the personality, you would love it. And I saw what those recruiters were doing. And I was like, no, thanks. This looks way too stressful. This was like high volume, like manufacturing. You know how that goes. And I kept declining the offer. And then one day they asked again. And I was like, you know what? Let's give it a swing. And 15 years later, here I am. So it was very random, like most people, and never thought that this is what I would do, but I love it.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Why I stay in it, the people. It will always be the people. I think you kind of have to be a people person to do this, right? Because that's what we focus on. And it just brings me joy. I mean, through every stressor that comes with recruiting, there's this reward that you get. And I just feel like it, gives my life a lot of reward. And I get to give people, something that is hard to find these days, which is a really good job.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So, follow-up question there, because I started in industrial recruiting as well, and that's kind of, I think, what either tells you right off the bat, this is for me, or I never want to do this again. It's like trial by fire for you. And so, how did being in that position in, the staffing industry and having so much on you in terms of calls need to be made, positions need to be filled, kind of prepare you and help you achieve the success that you've gotten now in your career in recruiting?
Totally. Chaos coordinator, right? Like it teaches you how to stop being frazzled and to take a step back and just say, okay, this is my workload. How can I divide it? Right. So that those kind of entry level, I guess, if you will, recruiting roles, I think they build the foundation for later in life when you get to a point where, maybe you are working on different roles and it is a little bit of a higher role. You're still leaning into, who you were when you were really just, again, being the chaos coordinator and working through those entry level positions.
Yeah, definitely. So, primary goal for any recruiter from industrial staffing up through corporate and every other industry in between is that candidate experience. So, being in recruitment for as long as you have and understanding what your candidate's looking for as much as what you're trying to accomplish yourself. How have you kind of catered your candidate experience to kind of how has it changed along the way? I guess I should say to identify, this is what they need, this is what I can do for them, and let's work together to make that happen.
Yeah. I love this question because it does evolve. I think in the beginning, you follow a script a lot of the times when you're having interviews and you're asking questions to make sure that they meet the job specs, but you need to let go of the script and have those conversations to really dig deeper into, okay, what do they love that they're doing, what are they missing, what are they looking for? And once you can get down to kind of the core of that person and their values and what they want, not just in their professional life, right, but in their personal life, you can then kind of unify all of that and create something where you understand, maybe they do have the experience, but maybe this fit isn't a role because, or vice versa. Maybe they don't, but this role could be a fit because, right? So lose the script, get to the person, get to know them, understand who they are. And I think that will help you kind of, get the retention you're looking for too.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk to those early in their career recruiters who have just started the entry level roles. Because as you know, you get into an entry level recruiting position and then you can go in several different directions when you're ready for that next step. You can stay in recruiting, you can get into sales, you can try different things altogether that are still within the nature of the business. So how did that path look for you? How did you kind of figure out this is the direction I want to go with it, and what did you rely upon to get there outside of yourself, networking, external support? What else played a part in you kind of taking those next steps to push yourself?
Mm-hmm. So I always took on something that I wasn't ready for. I don't ever recall to this day, I don't ever recall taking a job where I was like, yes, I can do this. And I'm so confident and I'm not nervous at all. I think I pushed myself to take on roles where, excuse me, where I felt like I wasn't the smartest person in the room. But once I got in that room, I very quickly pinpointed the mentor that I wanted to work with. And for me in particular, many times those mentors were, fellow recruiters that were just higher up than I was. Specifically this industry, of course, I think like any other recruiter, I said I was going to quit like 15 times, throughout my 15 years, but obviously I'm still here and it's, for the reasons of what the industry gets me. But I think for many people, if they're looking at exploring different roles, like you said, sales, they could be project managers. There's so much that you can do with this background. It's finding the person, that kind of sticks out to you and having conversations with them. Mentors are everything in this business. And if you don't have them, I think it's going to set you back quite a bit.
Yeah, definitely. So you're active on LinkedIn and you've kind of probably seen the stories right now. Recruiters don't have the best outlook right now in terms of the candidates and how they view recruiters, and recruiters trying to find other recruiting positions. It's all kind of chaotic right now. And I think a lot of that plays in part of communication. So, for you, you've been successful in the industry for so long. So obviously your communication has had to be to the level that the candidates expect, or you wouldn't be where you are. So, how do you try to maintain that consistent communication throughout the hiring process? How do you personalize it to make sure that the candidate knows their value to you in this process?
Yeah. So I go by the motto that no update is an update. If you don't have an update, let your candidate know that you just don't have one, right? I think that what happens and what I've seen, and probably what, at many times in the beginning of my career, is you don't have an update, so you don't know what to say. And then in turn, that candidate feels like, okay, well, I don't exist or I don't matter. Sending an email saying, hey, John Doe, I just wanted to touch base with you. I haven't heard anything yet, but you're still in my mind and I'm still pushing through. It means the world to somebody that is on the job market, especially the job market today.
Yeah.
A majority of these people, I was laid off from big tech. I just wanted to be heard and seen. And so I think if you're just doing that, that means enough. When it comes to how you remember, use your calendar. I put in, I mean, every day, if you open my calendar, it says update this person, update that person. And that's a responsibility that you just have to hold yourself accountable for. But yes, communication is, I mean, that's the basis of this role, right? So if you don't have it, you have to really build that muscle and build that skill. And I would say doing that, fundamentally would be use your calendar and then keep in mind and remember that these are human beings and they need to be updated to, with and communicated to.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, beyond communication, networking and branding kind of play a huge role in terms of how you are as a recruiter, how successful you are, building that presence, not just yourself, but for the company at times too. So, how have you throughout your career found that balance of, this is who I am, this is who my company is, and being able to speak to both of those things, on a social media platform where everything can be scrutinized?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think when you speak your voice, you're going to have a group of people that are with you and a group of people that aren't. And you have to come to this like happy medium of, okay, this is who I am and I accept who I am. And I think finding your group, like-minded people are important, but so are the unlike-minded people. Listen to those perspectives because we don't know everything. I may think I know everything, but I don't. I haven't scratched the surface. And so when someone doesn't agree with my perspective in this business or whatever that is, that's okay. I want to have that conversation and I want to learn from people that again are not like me. I think when it comes to trying to network for what you're passionate about, but then also in alignment with maybe the company you're with or what have you. I had focused a lot on, okay, let's say I'm a woman in this business, right? And so I spent many years with a board that influenced women in business to really kind of be their best and show up their best. And that aligned well with the company I was with because we were really pushing for diversity and getting women into the business. And so kind of finding a little bit of both, like what's your passion and what's important to you, and does that align at all with, what you're currently doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So, what are some of the other ways that you try to cater to that? Because that's something that I feel like a lot of candidates forget about in the process. It's just, I need a job. Sometimes it's, I'll take anything. So, how do you try to pull that information out of them? Not just, I need a job, I'll take anything, but what's going to be best for you, whether that's, a DEI type of mindset. For us in packaging, sustainability is a big thing, but not everyone thinks to put that at the top of their list when they're looking for next job. So how do you try to get that out of them so that you can find them a position that's going to be more long term than just the next job?
Yeah. So especially now, I think there's a lot of people that are, I will take anything, just give me a job, right? And fair
Yeah,
enough, right?
absolutely.
Like I totally get that mindset. But again, it's digging deeper, losing the script. So yes, I understand, Matt, that you will take anything. But if you could have anything, your dream job, your dream daily kind of, responsibility that you have, what would it be? Just tell me. And then being able to kind of group that together and think, okay, is this role in, does this role touch that? If not this role, is there anything within this company that could touch that, where this person could come in, get their foot in the door and maybe grow there, right? And present that to your hiring team. I think being able to know your candidate enough so that you have the substantial information to really truly sell them to the hiring team is what's important. And you can then cover, both sides on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's discuss feedback because that's probably one of the biggest criticisms that recruiters face is not giving it or not giving the right feedback, and sometimes that's just kind of a a circumstance of the situation. Sometimes it's this person had X and you had Y and it wasn't anything that you can do about it. So how beneficial is it going to be for me to tell you that? So how do you try to do that for the candidates that you're working with? How often are you able to give the feedback, and what are some ways that you try to deliver it in a way that's going to benefit the candidate as opposed to just getting that canned response?
Yeah, this is a hot topic on LinkedIn. Um, Listen, I understand both sides. There's some companies where they legally can't give certain type of feedback, right? And so that leaves this recruiter in a place where they're like, well, what do I do now?
Yeah,
But as the recruiter, there's still that piece where we have to remember that this is a human element, right? So like closure, we need to give closure. These people, many of the times, have gone through 3 to 4 rounds of interviews. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, sorry, we're not going forward with you. And then we wonder why they're upset when there's no feedback.
right.
So for me personally, I mean, I give as much feedback as I can, right? I would say, you were great, but they pursued another candidate that maybe had the industry specific experience they were looking for or the software specific, whatever that is, so that they can really kind of understand, okay, my interview went well, but this candidate may have had something else. Do what you can with what you have. And I know that that's an open ended answer, but it's an open ended question, right? It's different everywhere. So take what you can give them and at least share so that they feel like, again, they were seen and heard. If I can give advice ever to a recruiter, it's make sure your candidates feel seen and heard, and you will be fine. Recruiters are never necessarily upset with you, they're upset with outcomes.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've talked about how the recruiting industry has changed over the past 15 years or so since you started. And, a lot of that has been because of technology, not just, different job boards. And this is you have to be on this job board if you're going to find candidates has changed probably every 2 to 3 years now in the last decade or so. And now AI is playing such a big part in this as well in terms of how we can search for candidates and put out job descriptions. So, what are some of the ways that you try to stay out in front of those best practices, new hiring practices, new technology? What do you rely upon to kind of find what's going to work for you? Because not everything will.
Yeah. Other recruiters. I mean, LinkedIn is like, I think for recruiters, LinkedIn is a gold mine, right? Like you can scroll your feed, and if you're connected to a lot of different recruiters in your network, you will see things left and right that people are talking about or learning about and sharing. Also, LinkedIn training, they have great pieces there for recruiters. Read, listen to podcasts, get in with the times, if you will. I mean, when AI first came out, I mean, I'm not old, but I'm not, a young kid either. I was like, what is this? But
Yeah.
then I started thinking, well, how could this benefit me? And now I use it every day, right? So I learned, I Googled it, I researched it, I learned about what it was. And then I saw how other recruiters were using it and thought, this is amazing. I mean, this is going to speed up part of my job, so quickly. So just stay on top of it, look at what your peers are doing, research things, read books, network. It may sound boring, but it's not, and it can really accelerate your career growth.
Yeah. All right. Perfect. So, last question is I'm going to do it in two parts here because I don't normally ask anyone that joins me on this to give advice. So, since you're also in recruiting, that's kind of the first part. Someone's starting out, one of those entry level recruiters, and obviously you've shared a lot of advice already. But looking back when you started that journey in industry recruiting, what would you say is a piece of advice that you received early on that's kind of stuck with you throughout your journey so far?
You can do it. It's so simple, but I remember being so terrified to have a meeting with a kind of big person at a huge manufacturing plant, and I had told my boss that, and they said, "What are you talking about? You can do it. Pretend like you can do it." And I pretended, and I did. Have the confidence in yourself and align yourself with people that will push you to do things you're not comfortable doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the other part of the question is for the job seekers out there, because a lot of them always look to get insight and advice from people in the interviewing seat and in the recruiting seat. So, to those job seekers that are in this frustrating process, some of them are at, month 10, month 12 of looking for something, what is the advice that you give to those that, candidates that you work with when you're preparing them for an interview or just having that initial discussion with them?
Yeah, they're not alone. I myself was out for 11 months before I found, this current role from the layoff, and everybody is kind of in this position. So I think a lot of people feel like they're an island. They're not. Get with other people that are in the same boat as you, have those conversations about trends that they're seeing, make sure that your resume is tailored to the industry that you're looking for. People, as you mentioned, are applying to things now just to get something to get it. Try to tailor your resume, try to make yourself really stand out so that when a busy recruiter is getting an influx of how many resumes nowadays, they see yours and it sticks out. And just keep applying. I mean, I can't even remember how many resumes I sent in after the Facebook layoff, but we made it, right? And they will make it too. The industry will change again, the market will change again, and there will be a light at the end of the tunnel. So stay up to date, stay networking, stay close to peers, and make sure that you're targeting yourself for the right roles.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, again, I'm so appreciative of you taking the time to join me for this. I know right now in recruiting, there's no such thing as a slow day. So
No.
take the 20, 25 minutes out of your day. It's much appreciated. So thank you everyone for watching, for listening. I hope you gained some insight from this, and we'll see you next Monday.
Thanks, Matt.